Before there was a modern air traffic control system, the burden of maintaining separation between commercial aircraft fell mainly on pilots. They kept their distance using what's called visual flight rules, otherwise known as C and B scene.
Think of it as driving your car. You avoid traffic by seeing it and not putting your car where there's another car. The airplane works in visual flight rules the same way.
C and B scene is a catastrophic failure in two deadly collisions between the same two airlines, TWA and United. The first crash is over the Grand Canyon on June 30th, 1956.
These two pilots were having to deviate around thunderstorms. They actually didn't know that when they came back around the backside of the clouds, the other aircraft was there.
The United DC-7 and TWA Lockheed Constellation, or Super Connie, collide at 21,000 feet. At the time, it's the deadliest accident in aviation history.
The tragic aftermath of Saturday's TWA United Airlines crash, which claimed 128 lives.
It was a watershed event. It was one of those accidents that we as a society said we're not going to have that anymore.
The collision prompts the Federal Aviation Act of 1958, which creates the FAA, whose mission is to provide the safest, most efficient aerospace system in the world. Unfortunately, change doesn't happen quickly enough. It's a dreary December morning in 1960 when TWA and United have another catastrophic incident, this time over New York City. 10:25 a.m. Air traffic control alters the route of United Flight 826, a DC-8 shaving 11 miles off its path to New York's LaGuardia Airport. 10:30 a.m. United is at 14,000 feet and cleared to descend to 5. At the same moment, TWA Flight 266, a Super Connie like the one that crashed over the Grand Canyon, is heading to Idlewild Airport, known now as JFK. It's coming through 8,000 feet. United is told to head to a specific navigational fix or intersection, where it's to enter a holding pattern and await further instructions. But there are problems. The plane has two navigational instruments used at the time to determine position. One of them isn't working. And the plane is also traveling more than 500 miles per hour, a speed later determined to be excessive. And the DC-8 flies past its clearance.
I would equate it to driving down a street. If you know where you are and you know the second left turn is the turn you need to make, that's great. But if you didn't see the first road to the left, you would drive beyond it because you didn't recognize the first cue.
At 10:33 a.m., LaGuardia Tower advises TWA of traffic off to its right. No one realizes it, but the United DC-8 is heading straight for them. Then, 7 seconds later, as both planes approach 5,000, there's a brutal collision. One of the DC-8's engines tears through the fuselage of the Super Connie. The TWA plane breaks into pieces and goes down on the spot, crashing in Staten Island's Miller Airfield. But the United jet manages to stay aloft for 8.5 more miles until it's over Park Slope, Brooklyn, where Tom Regan, then 20 years old, is standing on the street.
I crossed the street at 7th Avenue and Sterling Place, just stepping on the corner, when I heard a loud whine. And when I turned around, the wing of the plane, United Airlines, was catching into the roof of the building that I had just left. And there was a tremendous explosion. Immediately, I dropped to the ground, and then moments after that, there was a second explosion. Bang! Just everything exploded. And now the whole place was on fire. I stayed on the ground for what I thought seemed to be a long time, but I believe it was only several seconds. And I jumped up and I ran, and I never looked back. There was a tremendous explosion. Immediately, I dropped to the ground, and then moments after that, there was a second explosion. Bang! Just everything exploded. And now the whole place was on fire.
On the street, people are astounded to learn there's a single survivor, 11-year-old Stephen Baltz of Wilmette, Illinois, who's thrown from the United plane into a snowbank.
He had been given a Christmas gift to fly alone from Chicago to New York, and that's what happened.
At the time, Barbara Lunis is a recent nursing school graduate working at Methodist Hospital a few blocks from the crash site. She's assigned to care for Stephen overnight. He's badly burned.
I couldn't tell if he was white or black. He was just charcoal. I think they said it was 85% of his body.
Within hours, the boy's father arrives in New York and speaks to the press.
Mr. Baltz, how do you and Mrs. Baltz feel about your son being the sole survivor here?
We have great heartfelt sympathy for all of the people who were not as fortunate.
The country rallies behind Stephen, but his injuries are too grave.
And if I had been in nursing longer, I would have known there was no chance, but that's why I think they put me there.
Stephen Baltz, our little 11-year-old boy, the lone survivor of the plane crash in Brooklyn, expired at 1 p.m., just a few minutes ago. The little boy closed his eyes and went to sleep.
With the final death toll at 134, including 6 on the ground, the 1960 crash over Park Slope replaces the Grand Canyon collision as the deadliest U.S. commercial aviation disaster to that point. To investigate the accident, the Civil Aeronautics Board, the forerunner to the NTSB, uses flight data recorder or black box technology for the first time ever. The conclusion? United Flight 826 proceeded beyond its clearance limit, or the place it was told to go, into a holding pattern. Its high rate of speed and the change of clearance or shortcut it was given by air traffic control are contributing factors. Within 3 months, President Kennedy establishes Project Beacon. The task force is mandated to review the country's aviation facilities and put together a long-range plan for the future of air traffic in the U.S. Like building blocks, each mid-air collision has helped make the skies safer. So much safer, in fact, that according to an MIT study, technology has advanced to the point where we can expect only 1 mid-air collision every 100 million flight hours. The last time 2 commercial jets collided over the U.S. was the 1960 accident above New York City. Since then, there have been 3 more mid-air collisions, all involving 1 large aircraft and 1 small.